Hello, everybody, and welcome to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup. It is June 11th, 2021. Tonight, we will be talking about Microsoft's expansion of the xCloud platform off the Xbox, off the phone, and potentially straight to your TV. We'll also be talking about the EA hack and how the hackers were able to actually get in and steal the source code for FIFA and for Frostbite Engine. And of course, we'll also be talking about how CD Projekt Red was a little sneaky in talking about exactly what happened with the hack and how many details got out there from the hack earlier this year. Again, it's June 11th, 2021. We're going to roll our intro and get things started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup for the week of November 20th, 2020. It is Friday. It is, where's my date? It's September 18th. 2020 here to our first story, and this is actually breaking news for all of us right now here too. Figured this is a kind of a big one to cover, of course, with who it is. Joined via Discord by Kyle because we're in the midst of a pandemic still, and of course everything is all kinds of crazy. So this thing is a chocker. I mean,
yeah, it's a beast.
It's huge. Doing that we had the Resident Evil stuff, that they were successful with Castlevania. Welcome to another NPC's Weekly News Roundup. And it's the news time. I am joined, of course, by Kyle via Discord. Kyle, hello.
What's up?
Man. All right, and of course, it is June 11th, and welcome to another stream. Kyle's here with me via Discord because he's been so busy playing Mass Effect, he is physically attached to his chair and cannot get up anymore. So Kyle, how are things going there in the chair? Do you need me to send assistance?
No, I did manage to get a haircut, so I mean that's at least something. But I think I'm okay at the moment.
How the hell did you manage to get a haircut while being? How did you manage to get a haircut while being glued to your chair playing Mass Effect?
Carefully.
Okay. Carefully, very carefully. Or did you do it yourself by using your new all-in-one cooler, so that way while you're cutting your hair with the 320 millimeter fans, you could watch a little movie on the LCD screen?
No way, man. That'd be a total mess.
Are you sure? Just no bzzz? No, are you sure? I mean, it might have worked out. Yeah, you never know.
Good.
You never know what that RGB could do for your hair. Anyway, so of course, guys, we got a couple stories here for you. We're going to hop right into one of the big ones this week. Of course, as a reminder, we are also on Open Critic as well. We are doing a podcast with them where we also go over the weekly news in a more structured format. If you want to go check that out, our newest episode dropped this about this afternoon, actually. It was a little late publishing there. Go check it out on opencritic.com. So let's go ahead and hop in here to our first story. And again, this is probably the biggest one of the week thus far. Microsoft announces Xbox TV app and its own xCloud streaming stick. Actually, the title story for tonight's stream. Microsoft is working with TV manufacturers to make an Xbox app available on devices soon. The software giant is planning to bring its Xbox Game Pass service to TVs through the xCloud streaming technology, opening up more ways to get access to Xbox games. This will be available as both an app on TVs and with Microsoft's own dedicated streaming stick. We're working with global TV manufacturers to embed the Game Pass experience directly into internet-connected TVs, so all you'll need to play is a controller, says Liz Hamren, head of gaming experiences and platforms at Microsoft. Microsoft isn't announcing exactly when this Xbox app will be available on TVs, nor which manufacturers will bundle it on their devices. Xbox chief Phil Spencer previously hinted at an Xbox app for TVs late last year, noting he expects to see that in the next 12 months. Spencer also hinted at Microsoft's own Xbox streaming stick last year, something Microsoft now says will appear soon. We're also developing standalone streaming devices that you can plug into a TV or monitor, so if you have a strong internet connection, you can stream your Xbox experience, reveals Hamren. Much like the TV app plans, Microsoft isn't providing any details on release date or pricing for its own Xbox streaming devices. We don't even know what they will look like. Microsoft revealed these details in a special press briefing ahead of its E3 event later this week. Microsoft will be focusing on games at its E3 showcase on Sunday, June 13th, so it's unlikely we'll get any further details until the devices are ready to ship. So, it's funny, Kyle. It's really funny because we talked about, in our last episode of the podcast, we talked about Microsoft's and PlayStation even, like, in an all-digital future going into the next generation of consoles. It's just funny that this story dropped this week after us talking about it. I wonder if someone's ears were burning at Microsoft and said, yeah, just announce it. Just get it done. We have to do it.
Well, I don't know if it was just Phil Spencer dropping the ball and hinting a little too heavily
Oops.
at it, but if you recall, like 3 months ago, Phil Spencer said, we'd like to do something like a stick for a TV.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, he could have been just throwing it out there, and by accident it was like, oh shit, I just had that press conference, that wasn't supposed to be
Hmm.
said, type thing, but we'll
Oh
just
yeah.
let it freeze under the rug.
Oh yeah.
But
Absolutely.
I don't know, I definitely see this as a future of, or an outlet for gaming, especially with there being such a huge shortage on the chips, and the video cards and consoles. This is going to give so many people a way to play, and I think PlayStation will be wanting to jump on this opportunity as well.
Yeah, and that would be really nice to see if Sony actually offered up something that competed with this because right now I don't even think there's a PlayStation Now app for phones. I could very well be wrong, but I think it's limited to actually playing within an actual computer environment. So you actually need to be on your PC with your controller, your PlayStation controller connected to your computer to be able to play those games. I don't know if they have any other offerings, but I could very well be wrong. So Microsoft has really kind of offered a well-rounded solution now with Game Pass and with game streaming, and now they're taking it to the next level. But we don't know what the device is going to look like yet. So what I did, of course, is the thumbnail for tonight's episode, for tonight's live stream, is actually just an Amazon Fire Stick that I just superimposed the Xbox logo over the top of, just because it's like, honestly, I think Microsoft is very capable of being able to make a device that small. I don't think it's going to be anything that would be like big, like a small set top box or something, or even like a mini PC. I think they could even go as much as
I
like
don't
the
think you're
size of
that
a
far off.
Chromecast. Yeah, I really don't
Yeah.
think so because I would imagine it'd be about the same size as their little their controller receiver unit, their USB wireless controller unit that you just plug into your computer. I would expect it to be
Yeah.
about that size because you think for people who want to take their Xbox with them but kind of like can't take it with them. I mean, the
Mhm.
size of the Series X doesn't really allow for great portability, and of course now we saw that Kickstarter recently about the kind of the throwback to days of old, where some company's going to be kickstarting a screen attachment for the Series S. And while that's great, that's still a lot to take with you. And to be able to
Yeah.
actually pack a streaming stick in your bag and a controller and then go and play wherever really you can, I think that's actually a really good step forward. Uh,
Hmm.
but on the application front, though, um, I guess the first TV provider I could think of that might actually be like the first partner to offer the experience. And I mean, I don't know, maybe if you're thinking anybody different, but I'm thinking Samsung might actually be the first partner.
Oh, I could see Samsung doing it,
Hmm.
or I could see them also partnering with LG.
That would definitely be a big one. I say Samsung because when what was it? I can't remember if it was the Galaxy S10 or the Note 10, but when those dropped, there was a very big push on Microsoft apps being shipped on those devices, like right
Hmm.
off the bat. And then, of course, there was something about Game Pass as well too, with oh, excuse me, uh, with the Samsung devices as well, like with one of the Galaxy devices. I can't remember exactly which, but there was something big that happened there. So that's why it makes me think Samsung
Hmm.
could be truly the first partner for that, and then I think LG could either be released exactly at the same time or just after. I don't think we'll expect to see a Sony app or a Sony TV carrying an Xbox app. So
Yeah, no, I see that one being um the last, if any, to actually get access to an app.
mm-hmm. Exactly. Uh, a couple other things that were talked about in some different articles, though, that weren't mentioned in this one, of course, is that the game streaming hardware in the data centers is being upgraded to Series X hardware now. So it's going to be faster load times, at least from within the
Hmm.
game itself. It should be better quality. Of course, it's going to all depend on your
Yeah.
internet connection. And then lastly, and I think by far this is one of the most interesting and probably the best initiatives they could take, is that they are also going to be offering the ability to try before you download. So essentially taking the path of what demos have been for us, in the past, where you think way back in the day when you'd get a disc in the mail or you'd go out and pick up a gaming magazine, it'd have a demo disc for PlayStation or Xbox. Now you don't even need to download the game. You actually just connect to game streaming and you get to play that game for a small amount of time, make sure it's worth it, and then you can go and buy it.
See, that's all well and good, but I guess it would also depend on how long you get to play the game. And is it from the beginning and then you get to keep your progression, or is it a curated portion? Because I know I personally, if I'm playing a demo, I would rather play a small curated portion of a game to see what, I'm kind of getting a taste of, beginning, middle, and end.
Right.
If I can get a kind of a generalized sampling of that, then I'd be happy. Or something that's kind of beginning, middle, that doesn't have anything to do with the story of the game, that I'm just gonna play a portion of the game that at least I'm getting a feel for it, and I'm getting I'm not going in just bare and going, oh, well, this sucks. I'm going to have to play for 3 more hours before it gets good, but the demo is only 30 minutes long.
There's that. I would think more that
So,
like the actual content will be curated to a certain part of a game, or even more of a standalone experience that lets you experience what the game is going to be like without giving away
mhm.
key things like story or certain progression details that may not necessarily relate to what the full game is going to be, but stuff that will relate at
That's what
least
I'm
to however
saying.
long that demo is going to be. Because I can't imagine that thought first crossed my mind that it's like, okay, maybe they'll go the timed route instead, but I think it's going to be more like a demo where you may have only like the first level of something to play, or you might
Right.
have the first mission to complete, and then once that's done, boom, splash screen that says go buy now here, and you can click on a link to go do that, or what have you, or it takes you to the storefront to actually go purchase that game.
hmm
Yeah. So a lot of good news out of that one for sure. It's not a surprise that they're dumping a lot of this information. Like the article said, of course, we're not going to be seeing more from Xbox until this coming Sunday. So for them to at least go the route of some hardware news, I guess, without actually showing off any hardware, was good on this part. And we'll actually see some more stuff from Microsoft and Bethesda on the 13th, and supposedly for one of the stories we have coming up soon, we'll see another game as well too, also on the 13th.
Yeah, honestly, it's really good hype for what's coming up for the main show.
Mm-hmm.
I think them announcing that this is going to have the ability to be on just your TV, just your a stick that you can carry around, is going to benefit them greatly with what they'll show and what they'll bring to the show with Bethesda.
Agreed. I think the only thing, and this is my last kind of thought on this one, is whether or not game streaming may support potentially like local multiplayer.
Oh,
Like whether they will offer something, because I can imagine, depending on space constraints or something like that, if you could take, like, say you're a college student and you couldn't take your Xbox with you, you could have that streaming stick and 2 controllers. Could you potentially hook up both
yeah.
controllers to the streaming stick and play some sort of local game?
Or you've got a buddy that he has a computer, but he also has an Xbox controller for, just those few games. He can come over and play,
Exactly.
Xbox on your TV without the Xbox.
Exactly. Exactly. So that was the last thought on that one. I think it's going to be really good to see what comes out of the Microsoft conference this weekend. So with that, of course, let's actually carry on here to our next story. And Kyle, I'm going to leave this next one to you here from Engadget. Blizzard shows off a pair of Overwatch 2 hero redesigns. So what's going on with Overwatch?
Sombra and Baptiste are the latest characters to get new looks. When Overwatch 2 eventually arrives, along with ditching one player per team, it will feature redesigns for all 32 heroes on the current Overwatch roster. Since it announced the sequel back in late 2019, Blizzard has been drip feeding new looks for characters. Game director Aaron Keller stopped by the Summer Games Fest kickoff show to show off two of them. Um, and of course, we've got Sombra and Baptiste. Keller explains, Keller explained the updated character models feature a lot of new tools such as hair shader tech that helped the art team to create Baptiste's revamped hairstyle. He'll have glowing cape and gloves that give a medic or a surgeon vibe to him, Keller said. Keller also revealed an updated design for Sombra, which was apparently a challenging one for Blizzard's art team. It's an asymmetrical design with many layers of hair, clothing, and tech. Since she's a hacker, there are nodes and circuitry built into the character model. Whether those split-toe boots are fashionable in the late 21st century remains to be seen. The new looks for Baptiste and Sombra follow redesigns that have emerged for the likes of Reinhardt, Widowmaker, May, Mercy, and Torbjorn. There's still no word on Overwatch 2 release date, but it's likely to be this year.
I mean, I'd say out of all the characters, it's one of them
Sombra's
that I kind of
neat.
play.
Sombra I play quite a bit now lately. I've actually picked up her quite a bit in the last probably 8 months when I play. I don't know. I don't feel like the character model is too far off her original character model. Like, I notice a lot of differences, and then I notice some subtleties. But Baptiste, man, he looks cool.
Yeah, I think he actually got a really good revamp.
Yeah.
I guess the question's going to be is what else they've changed about him so far, because out of every character I've played as, and it has been all of them, Baptiste is really on the lower end of the totem pole for me when it comes to actually picking a character. So I'm hoping, I know there's a lot of others out there who are better with him, but I really hope he gets a little bit of a retune for Overwatch 2.
Honestly, other than maybe Ana, he is my weakest healer.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the case for me too.
Yeah.
Lucio all the way.
For me, Zenny.
Yeah, you and your
I love that
Zenyatta.
Zenyatta. But Lucio is probably a close second or third for me, actually.
Jeez.
Yeah, I think he'd probably be my second.
Well, fine. Well, that is a argument. That is apples to oranges here right now. Best character to obviously the worst character, but I'm not making any comments here about Zen. So anyway, let's move on.
Powerful.
He really is. Let's go ahead and move on here to our next story on the list tonight, and this story actually comes to us from Vice. How hackers use Slack to break into EA games. A representative for the hackers explained to Motherboard how the group stole a wealth of data from the game publishing giant. The group of hackers who stole a wealth of data from game publishing giant Electronic Arts broke into the company in part by tricking an employee over Slack to provide a login token, Motherboard has learned. The group stole the source code for FIFA 21 and related matchmaking tools, as well as the source code for the Frostbite engine that powers games like Battlefield and other internal game development tools. In all, the hackers claim they have 780 gigabytes of data and are advertising it for sale on various underground forums. EA previously confirmed the data impacted in the breach to Motherboard. A representative for the hackers told Motherboard in an online chat that the process started by purchasing stolen cookies being sold online for $10 and using those to gain access to a Slack channel used by EA. Cookies can save the login details of particular users and potentially let hackers log into the service as that person. In this case, the hackers were able to get into EA Slack using the stolen cookie. Although not necessarily connected, in February 2020, Motherboard reported that a group of researchers developed an ex-engineer had left a list of the names of EA Slack channels in a public-facing code repo. Once inside the chat, we messaged an IT support member. We explained to them we lost our phone at a party last night, the representative said. Do you work at EA? Do you know anything else about this? Okay, no, that's actually them saying that they want more details.
Yeah.
Sorry, that mixed me up. I thought it was a quote. Yeah, the hackers then requested a multi-factor authentication token from EA IT support to gain access to EA's corporate network. The representative said this was successful 2 times. Once inside EA's network, the hackers found a service for EA developers for compiling games. They successfully logged in and created a virtual machine, giving them more visibility into the network, and then accessed one or more service and downloaded game source code. The representative for the hackers provided screenshots to help corroborate the various steps of the hack, including the Slack chats themselves. EA then confirmed to Motherboard the contours of the description of the breach given by the hackers. In its earlier statement, EA said, "We are investigating a recent incident of intrusion into our network where a limited amount of game source code and related tools were stolen. No player data was accessed, and we have no reason to believe there is any risk to player privacy. Following the incident, we've already made security improvements and do not expect an impact on our games or our business. We're actively working with law enforcement officials and other experts as a part of this ongoing criminal investigation." The representatives of the hackers also provided Motherboard with a series of documents they say were stolen as a part of the hack. They include an assortment of material on PlayStation VR, how EA creates digital crowds in the FIFA games, and documents about AI in games. Sony, which owns the PlayStation brand, did not respond to a request for comment. So, EA's the latest one to be hacked. EA's the latest one to get its butt whooped by that part, though, too. And the fact on how they were actually able to hack in is basically like phishing 101 is essentially what it came down to.
Yeah.
At least on that part. They used for them to actually have the cookies, though, that they were able to reverse engineer and use to actually get login details and then be able to actually spoof somebody within EA's IT support.
Yeah, they
crap.
had to have been tracking someone to actually gain access to those cookies.
Well, what they said is that it's like they purchased them
like
online for $10. They purchased them, so
Oh,
they were already
yeah,
stolen
yeah.
from something else.
So someone else was tracking them, or tracking their IP and then gained access to their cookies probably, and then was just selling them because they didn't want to do anything with them. So,
Yep, exactly.
But
it's interesting to see that that's exactly like that's how they got in. Was just, besides kind of the ingenuity that went into the tracking cookie to be able to offer at least some level of credential, that they were able to go just simply by phishing and just saying, "Hey, I need my password reset because I lost my phone," and it happened there. So, I feel bad for the IT guy who probably got let go because of that.
I feel like that's poor internal security in part, though, too.
Absolutely.
That's something that they should practice and go over maybe once or twice a year if this is something that actually happened, rather than when you start, don't give out passwords.
Yeah, don't start resetting things unless you can actually confirm it's the person. But sometimes, even in this day and age, even with 2-factor authentication, there's not a lot you're able to actually do there either. You just have to. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It always depends on the organization.
Yeah.
But it is interesting, though, at least what they got away with. But the question is how much of the source code did they actually get away with? How much did they take for, say, like Frostbite engine? Because that's powered the Battlefield games for so long. That's powering the upcoming Battlefield game, Mass Effect Andromeda. I think Frostbite a part of Dragon Age?
I don't. I think it was. But Frostbite is pretty much a part of everything that EA does now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it really is, because it was such a well-built engine that they were able to take it. But, I remember one complaint about developing RPGs on it because it was so different because of the way, like, BioWare had made their engine for things like Mass Effect, that it's like, okay, now you need to adapt to Frostbite instead, which wasn't built for it. However...
Yeah, Dragon Age was built using the Frostbite engine, it looks like. So
okay, so now you've included Dragon Age as well too. But that's a lot, and especially for games that are still being played nowadays, is that depending on how much of the source code got out, especially if it's all of it, now it's just time for people whoever can purchase it, to actually pick through it and see what else can we exploit now in these Frostbite games. Is there a way to? I know that the anti-cheat stuff and that is another layer. That is more likely than not completely separate from Frostbite, but I'm sure there's something embedded in there that who knows, may be able to actually find a way for anti-cheat as well too, like around it, just like with or even anti-DRM, you know.
See, and that was what I was thinking is that depending on because what the hackers are looking for is a high profile person to buy the code that is another hacker that can reverse engineer the code basically and profit using the reverse engineering to bypass their anti cheat or bypass anything that EA would have in place that could help them in multiplayer rounds.
Right. Yeah,
So,
that's very likely going to be the case. It's just going to depend on if someone is actually skilled enough to be able to break apart the source code and get those details built out for it. So, yeah.
right.
Yeah. But anyway, speaking of hacks, though, we're going to move on to another hack here that Kyle's going to be talking to us about. And this one snuck in a little bit under the radar just because of when they decided to announce this. So, Kyle, talk to us about this next story here from Polygon about Cyberpunk 2077 publisher CD Projekt says data breach is worse than originally thought.
CD Projekt, the parent company of the developer of Cyberpunk 2077, announced Thursday that the data breach it suffered earlier this year is potentially more damaging than originally thought. The news was announced during the high-profile industry premiere showcase during the Summer Games Fest hosted by Jeff Keighley. In early February, CD Projekt announced that it was targeted by a cyber attack and the data included video game source code had been stolen. At the time, the Polish company said that the certain data was being ransomed by unknown parties. It did not confirm the type of data stolen. Today's announcement, while still vague, seems to indicate that the data was quite sensitive indeed. The statement made on Twitter reads as follows. We would like to share with you a follow-up on the February security breach, which targeted the CD Projekt Group. Today we learned that new information regarding the breach and now have reason to believe that internal data illegally obtained during the attack is currently being circulated on the internet. We are not able to confirm the exact contents of the data in question, though we believe it may include current/former employee and contractor details in addition to data related to our games. Furthermore, we cannot confirm whether or not the data involved may have been manipulated or tampered with following the breach. Currently, we are working together with an extensive network of appropriate services, experts, and law enforcement agencies, including the General Police Headquarters of Poland. We have also contacted Interpol and Europol. The information we shared in February was the president of the Personal Data Protection Office, Puodo. I'm just going to read it as is. Has also been updated. We would also like to state that regardless of authenticity of the data being circulated, we will do everything in our power to protect the privacy of our employees as well as all of involved parties. We are committed and prepared to take action against parties sharing the stolen data. Following the launch of Cyberpunk 2077, which was delayed multiple times and released in a broken state, CD Projekt has lost significant portions of its value on the Polish stock market. Earlier this week, Bloomberg reported that the investment firm in the United Kingdom had called for co-CEOs Adam Kaczynski and Marcin Owinski to step down.
Another
That's
hack.
it.
Yeah, another hack we already knew about, and it's just the what's actually in it was all because what they told us, of course, back in January was that it wasn't really February, excuse me, it wasn't really anything in particular, there was the Cyberpunk source code, there was Witcher 3, there was an unreleased Witcher 3 game, there was Gwent as well.
Right.
But then they had kind of made some vague things about potential employee information as well. But now, of course, it looks like with whatever they've seen now, it's much, much worse.
Oh yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, this is personal employee and contractor data leaking out. I mean, this could be, financial accounts of contractors that were leaked out, you know, even if it's just the, account information for deposit, you could still do some damage with that. So,
Absolutely.
I there there's quite a bit that they have to really really, I mean, fess up for at this point. I really feel like they sold it short for sure to to not only the internet but maybe even their employees and to the people that are actually helping them out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's I don't think I've seen anything else actually about this hack since, of course, it was originally talked about back in February and it was announced that that had happened. Um, However, yeah, it's like none of the data has really like at least circulated out to like general public though. Like nobody's actually
Mhm.
out there showing off, hey, I've got the data, here's what's in it, or at least that's been made to light just yet. So I
Right.
guess that might be good that at least it hasn't made its way out there yet. I guess it's going to depend on truly what is in there. So it's just a matter of hopefully them being able to figure out exactly who has it, getting it back, and shutting down the operation.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Anyway, in that disappointing news, let's move on to some other big news of this week. And this was actually some
Something a little
really
bit more exciting.
something a little bit more exciting. And I'm going to, yeah, I'm going to enjoy talking about this one because I'm so excited to go and spend some money for this one. Battlefield 6 is Battlefield 42. I'm going to zoom this in for folks at home. This comes to us from the guru of 3D. Stemming from a leak on the Discord of well-known leaker Tom Henderson, the next game developed by DICE and EA will be called Battlefield 2042, moving in between 1942 and the futuristic title of 2142, full of highlights, placing us in the near future. So I'm going to move on down to the update, because that was at least the initial fun part. And it has been announced. After much waiting and endless rumors, Electronic Arts and DICE officially announced Battlefield 2042, which will arrive on PC and consoles on October 22nd. In addition, they shared a trailer showing 5 minutes of in-engine action that is not including real gameplay of the game. Electronic Arts has unveiled the latest Battlefield game through the trailer. Not unexpectedly, Battlefield 2042 takes place in the year 2042, which is a reference to to these original previously released games. Latest Battlefield Offspring, or God, it's just a lot of duplicates and repeats here on things in this article. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It'll be the first game in the series with a paid battle pass, although EA indicates this is only about cosmetic items. According to developer DICE, the game should deliver battles on an unprecedented scale. For example, it will be possible to play with up to 128 players on a single map. That amount is only supported on PC, Xbox Series X and S, and the PlayStation 5. Xbox One and PlayStation 4 users have to make do with a limit of 64 players. In addition, it is unclear how crossplay will work with this limitation. Compared to its recent predecessors, Battlefield 2042 comes without a campaign nor a battle royale, which was a big surprise, although EA and DICE indicate that the multiplayer will provide more information about the story here and there. As with Battlefield 2142, the world is hit by a climate crisis, although this is not a new ice age. When war breaks out between the superpowers, the camps fight it out with climate refugees by their side. Battlefield 2042 is a first-person shooter that marks a return to the iconic all-out warfare of the franchise. And this is a little bit more detail on, well, you know what, let's see here. I'm going to skip all that because that's basically, again, this article just copy and pastes everything all over and over again. So the bullet points here in the key features is welcome to a world transformed. USA and Russia stand at the brink of war. Proxy wars have waged for decades, generating experienced but displaced combat veterans. These specialists use their skills to shape the future, a future worth fighting for. Battle through epic, changing battlegrounds. Battlefield 2042 introduces 7 vast maps for up to 128 players. From Seoul cities to Egypt's deserts, every map offers a unique experience based on the natural environment. Employ a cutting-edge arsenal, customize weapons, gadgets, and vehicles in battle to tip the scales in your favor. Summon a robotic dog built for battle, employ a grappling hook, or don your very own wingsuit. And then choosing and equipping your specialist. This is a brand new one too. Choose your role on the battlefield and form hand-tailored squads through the new specialist system. Based on Battlefield's 4 classes, specialists have one unique specialty and trait, but the rest of the loadout is fully customizable. So, A lot of the details that actually goes into here as well in the article are talking more about like the prices and the different things you get based on pre-ordering and of course the different tiers. So pre-order bonuses gets you early access to the open beta, which I believe starts in August. You get the Baku ACB 90 melee takedown knife, Mr. Chompy epic weapon charm, and then Landfall player card background and Old Guard tag. The game edition, the game is going to be coming in 3 different editions, which includes the standard edition, which is just the base game, the gold edition, which is base game early access to game launch a week early, year 1 pass with 4 new specialists, 1 per season, 4 battle passes, 1 per season, and 3 epic skin bundles. Blistered Earth, Tempest, and Cold Blood are the names, and then cross-gen bundle. And then the Ultimate Edition, of course, is going to be the top tier, most expensive. So outside of what I just talked about there, you'll also get a Midnight Ultimate Bundle, which includes Shadow Stalker Legendary Outfit, Obsidian Legendary Weapon Skin, and Onyx Legendary Vehicle Skin. And then, of course, an official digital art book and exclusive digital soundtrack. Big thing about this, Kyle, that we had talked about actually in the Open Critic podcast as well, was the cost of these games. So for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, standard's going to be $60, gold will be $90, and Ultimate Edition will be $110. And, of course, we've already been expecting this anyway with the new consoles, is that the game prices for the new consoles goes up. $70 for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S for the Standard Edition, $100 for Gold Edition, and $120 for Ultimate Edition. A lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And you know, I feel like this is a game that is not gonna hit the EA pass within the first year, maybe 2 years. So they're gonna make you pay for it. And then after those first 2 years, if you want the content from those years, unless you want to play just the super vanilla version of the game, you're gonna have to shell out buku bucks for those 2 passes.
Very,
And they'll
very
keep
possible.
it a consistent price.
Yeah, very possible in that, because I think it's going to be a couple years down the line will be that way. I also think that what we'll probably see is, because of course I was a late adopter to Battlefield 4, but I bought the Battlefield 4 Premium Edition that gave me all of the DLC. So I went into that game with everything already unlocked, and I can't remember the price. I'm sure it was one of those like summer sales that I was able to pick it up on. So you're right. I think it's going to be a couple years down the line for that case, but especially with competing with things like Warzone, for example, not necessarily in the Battle Royale front, but the microtransaction front, I think you're absolutely right. You're going to be seeing those prices stay pretty much the same all the way through the lifetime of this game. And to be able to go back to get anything released in the previous seasons, it's going to cost an arm and a leg.
Mm-hmm.
But are you excited for this game?
Yeah. I think I'm probably honestly going to pre-order it. I really got burned by Battlefield 4. I know we had this conversation.
Yes, we did.
Probably 100 times. I still really like Battlefield. We've been playing it a lot more lately, and it's like I'm getting back into that feel of Battlefield. And it's not just that, you know, run and gun, insanely fast Call of Duty action. You know, I feel like at times there's a whole different tactic set that you have to utilize in order to make Battlefield work. And a lot of times it involves playing as a team, and that's what I like about the Battlefield games.
I do as well, is that it's going to be 128 players on a map, so 64 v 64, which is huge.
Maps are going to be way bigger, though.
They really are, and you are absolutely right, and that's the thing I'm looking forward to, because we saw that when you and I actually booted up Battlefield 4 just recently, is that it's a lot easier to die in that game than it is in Warzone. Like, there's no armor bundles you're getting to be able to go ahead and get yourself back up. You just have to wait to be healed or heal over time. On top of that, of course, yes, you are broken down from that in Battlefield 4 from 32 players on a team to 4 players per squad. And it's going to be the exact same thing here as well, if not maybe a couple more. So, yes, absolutely. I think that's going to be, you know, one of the things that they're going to do well on, and the fact that they're not playing to everybody's expectations of a battle royale is truly a good thing. I think it would kind of alienate what Battlefield has been, and that EA was kind of trying to make a quick buck on that one by like, hey, here's battle royale, Battlefield style now. I just don't know if it would have done properly. So I think sticking to their guns and doing what they're doing now is probably the best choice they could make.
What was it just me, or during the trailer, did you feel like the first portion of the trailer was like them kind of showing off what the game is all about, what the multiplayer is going to revolve around, and then it was like that last, like, I don't know, probably 20 to 40 seconds. I think it was closer to like 20 seconds, was just catering to, look at what people do in Battlefield. This is what you're going to be able to do all over again. Jumping out of jets, shooting rockets, and landing back in the jet.
Yeah, and then I think even driving like that little taxi vehicle there when the tornado showed up there, and like, driving away in that little thing, there should have been no expectation for that. That's going to be
Yeah.
you and like your teammates piled up in there, not necessarily like even just sitting in the seats, but people jumping on top of the car to ride the car all the way across
That's one
until the
thing
tornado
I
sucks
will
them up.
say I'm super excited about. We've
Same.
already seen environmental destruction in Battlefield games. I can't wait to see whether on the type of scale that it's actually going to affect the battlefield in that way.
Yeah,
I want to see tornadoes touch down. And being as it's going to be a game in the future, and we're dealing with climate crisis, we have a game that they said is what, in the Sahara Desert. What if we have to deal with a like Category 4 tornado in the middle of the desert, and you're having to wingsuit around and like shoot guys in a tornado? I mean, it goes off the rails from that whole, you know, being super tactical and like a little bit more realistic, but sometimes that's okay with Battlefield. Like when
that
they
really
did the
is.
2142, I feel like it wasn't real well received, but it played well. It had everything that they wanted to do with modern combat, and it just, it came at the wrong time, really and truly.
I think so. I really think it did. And the fact that they're now kind of in that middle ground of things, and that these types of games have had, as long as they've had to like evolve, especially with a lot of the emphasis on esports tournaments as well too. I think that it's allowed them to grow in a positive way. And we've
Mm-hmm.
gotten things like Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, Call of Duty's even kind of grown up as well though too. So yes, I absolutely agree. I think that it's like, they had a couple sore spots, but they learned and they've done much better. And of course, we're going to see more with this, because the game we were alluding to with Microsoft's side for their E3 conference on Sunday is going to be this game. There will actually be, I think, quite a bit of gameplay footage we're actually going to see of this game. And I'm really hoping, like you were talking about with the weather
Exciting.
events, I'm actually hoping we see a weather event in that demonstration.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would really like to see if that is the case. If you could throw a wingsuit up and fly around in a tornado and then just go shoot the hell out of somebody, that's just
Well,
perfect.
even if you had just like a massive lightning storm or a
Mhm.
massive hailstorm that, I'm talking like giant, almost softball size hail that could actually hurt you, what if that occurred during the middle of combat? You're engaged in combat, and all of a sudden softball size hail becomes your enemy as well.
You know what?
What if you're in a plane and you have to deal with softball size hail?
You know what I would much rather, see instead is that I'd like to see the return of the Megalodon. And I would also like to be able to use that specialist that has the grappling hook and see if I could grapple onto that rocket that launches from French Guiana. So I could actually see if I could fly up to space with it, like if it'll kill me at the
Oh,
top
jeez.
of the skybox.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, see if I could actually latch onto it in that, because I think if you play as the specialist with the grappling hook and you can equip the wingsuit, you've just got Just Cause multiplayer now.
Right.
See, you're set. You're all set, and that's what sells
That's
me even
super
more.
cool. That's a
Yeah.
super cool idea. I didn't
Yeah.
even think about that.
That I'm doing that first day. Okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go and
The
get it.
tactics are going to be insane.
Oh,
I'm going to have to drop the $120.
Well, it's
It's
100.
settled.
Remember, because you're playing on PC, so it'll be 110.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, And even though I have the Series X, I'm going to get it on PC because I think I'll have a better time on PC than I will on console. And that's just me.
I will say that that's the one thing I've failed as of late, but it is one thing that I still enjoy more
Mm-hmm.
is there are certain games that I play on console. Like I say, I failed it lately because I've been buying everything on PC. Um, it's the new PC syndrome. But
I get
um,
it. I do.
shooters are the one thing that it's like my absolute like if I can play it on PC, I'd rather play a shooter on PC. It's so much more fun. I have more fun with it because I'm more accurate. I'm not, you know, I don't know. I feel stupid with the controller, you know.
I that is one thing I can agree with like 100%. I think like story um, where you're actually playing like a shooter in that is one thing when you're playing with a controller, but
Hmm.
multiplayer, oh man, keyboard and mouse all the way. I'm right
Yeah.
there with you. I know, of course, that's definitely a different for a lot of people, but I'm just I agree with you 100%. And Alex added here, I'm tired of Megalodon. There's plenty of prehistoric aquatic predators to choose from. Yes, let's see like a plesiosaur, a massive plesiosaur go ahead and rise out of the ocean and do that. Or you know what, worst case, just for the fun of it, just give me a T-Rex with floaties, okay? Just give me a T-Rex with floaties and
Oh,
just let
jeez.
him just tear ass through everything, okay? That's perfectly fine with me.
Oh man.
You're welcome. But anyway, we're going to
Now
wrap up
our
here.
news has gone off the rails.
Now that our news has gone off the rails, let's go ahead and circle back around here to an update to something, of course, at least while we're waiting for its sequel. So Kyle's going to wrap up the news this evening for us with this story from VentureBeat. Get over here to it. Overwatch is adding crossplay support for all platforms. Kyle, this is some interesting news coming from this game itself, especially because we got Overwatch 2 on the horizon. So what exactly is Blizzard doing with this game?
Blizzard Entertainment announced today that Overwatch is adding cross-play support, meaning that players will be able to enjoy the game together no matter which platform they're playing on. A beta for the feature is live now. Overwatch is available on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. Now, a PC player will be able to play with someone on Switch, or an Xbox Series X user can compete with a PlayStation 5 owner. All combinations will be possible. However, this does not. Whoa, that article just jumped on me. However, this does not mean the game is getting cross uh, progression. You won't suddenly see your PC cosmetics and player stats on Xbox. On consoles, crossplay is going to necessitate those players link their Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo accounts with a Battle.net ID. Crossplay will work for all game modes except for competitive. There, players will either go into a PC or console pool. Competitive is a ranked mode, uh, and using a mouse and keyboard is typically an advantage over playing with game pads for shooters like Overwatch,
Just like we
just as
said.
we said.
Just as we said.
Blizzard is working on Overwatch 2 right now. It's nice to see it add crossplay ahead of the launch for the sequel, along with making it possible for people to play with friends across different platforms. The large, the larger player pool should help make queues go faster. This new feature could also help bring some life back to Overwatch, which hasn't gotten much in the way of new content lately, while Blizzard develops the sequel.
So, crossplay being added to a game that is now 5 years old and is not necessarily on its way out, but is about to
Hmm.
have a new little brother, of course, join the foray with Overwatch 2, which makes me think that it being added to Overwatch 1 may not necessarily have been probably an initial idea. I wonder if it was more of like they were planning on putting it in Overwatch 2, but to help kind
Hmm.
of hold people over because Overwatch 2 hasn't been given a release date yet, they're deciding to go ahead and roll this into Overwatch 1 now.
Yeah, I don't know. There's so many games that are going crossplay or that are planning crossplay
Right.
at the moment that I feel like this is something they had to do.
Hmm.
It's insane that they hadn't done it before. I think they should do it with more of their titles, honestly. Um, we've already got Call of Duty there, you know,
Hmm.
and Call of Duty is a Blizzard Activision title.
Hmm.
So I mean, I have to use the Blizzard launcher to access Warzone. I don't know why Overwatch wasn't that way anyway. I mean, it would have saved me from buying three different copies, four different copies of the game, but I probably would have bought them anyway, knowing me. Um, I I don't know. It needed to be done, and if it breathes some more life into the game, that would be
Hmm.
great because I can feel it. Um, I'm not one that has played like religiously over the past 5 years, but I get on about once a year, twice a year, and I play pretty heavy. And even
Hmm.
now, I notice that when I join a queue, even on PC, I can sit for a minute and a half, even if I'm in an open queue. Sometimes I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, I'm just glad that, yeah, I think that's going to be the biggest thing out of it is not necessarily playing with people across the gamut of consoles where you can actually play this game. I think it's going to really be more so speeding up the actual queue time. So you're going to get into games much faster. It's not going to feel like such a slog just waiting for to find something, you know. And
Hmm.
now you're opening up where you're now able to play with more people, and you're also going to be able to hopefully net better combos on different things too. It's just getting used to now. Of course, you're playing with keyboard mouse. Now you've got to get used to playing with people who are now on controller too. So a little bit of fine tuning on that part to really get your skill and strategy down with them.
Right.
Yeah. But that's at least a neat addition to everything there. However, of course, that is it for the news this week from us, at least. Of course, Summer Games Fest kicked off, of course, kind of as the precursor to E3. A bunch of new trailers shown off, especially what was it, Tiny Tina's Wonderland, which is
Yeah.
kind of it's a standalone Borderlands title that's actually kind of a spin-off of DLC that was made for Tiny Tina back for Borderlands 2.
We got the
Excuse me.
cast release for the Resident Evil live action
Yep.
that's going to be premiering on Netflix, as well as the announcement of the Splinter Cell animated series that's going to be on Netflix. Wow, I said that really weird.
That's okay. That's all right. It's
Yeah.
passed along very well.
It's
But
it's
yes, we
just
got that.
animated.
Yep,
Yeah,
we actually got the trailer, gameplay trailer for Elden Ring as well,
we did.
which a lot of people were really
And
looking
an
forward to.
announcement for the actual release date. So,
Yeah, which I gotta say, I'm still not sure what Elden Ring is. I looked at it, and at first I saw it, I was like, okay, hack and slash. And then another part came up, I'm like, no, Demon Souls. And then another part came up, and I'm like, RPG. I don't know what the game is.
it's the next Demon Dark Souls clone thing. Just know that they based all of the story off of lore written by George R. R. Martin that they commissioned him to write for the Elden Ring. I don't know. Like I think they gave him a concept and they said run with it. Basically write us a lore of a whole world, and then they based the story off of that,
Yeah,
from what I understand.
more likely than not, that was probably the case of it. So, but yeah, I know because George R. R. Martin's name shows up right there, created by him and some other person there, at least from the from software that's making it. So, but besides that, a lot of
Right.
other indie titles that were shown off though too, and of course, this next week is the start of E3. So next week's news will actually probably just be a nice big E3 recap for Kyle and I to go through and talk about the
Well,
announcements, the
not only
trailers,
that,
and all the other
that
chaos.
there's the E3, there's Summer Games Fest that will continue on. Um, there's the Ubisoft Forward,
Yeah.
um, the EA that they're doing,
Yep.
as well as I want to say there was one other. Oh, Devolver is also doing theirs. So we'll have lots to talk about probably over the course of the next 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's just going to be a lot of game announcements and discussions exactly about what we're seeing though too. So be on the lookout for all that stuff. And of course, the podcast will probably be just as crazy with all that information too. But with that, that is it for this week's news. So for everybody that's tuned in, thank you so much for checking us out. If you haven't yet, please make sure you're watching us on Facebook. Hit that like button so you know when we go live. We put posts up, all that fun stuff. You at least get notified there right on your main page on Facebook. If you're also watching us on YouTube, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so that way you know when we go live. Helps us out a lot, helps you a lot to be able to catch up on the news and hang out with us while we're providing our commentary, our thoughts, and our opinions on the news of the week. Of course, the main thing we do here with this is the podcast. That podcast drops every Tuesday morning, so make sure to go ahead and subscribe to that on your favorite podcast platform of choice. You can get links to all that on our anchor.fm page at anchor.fm/the-npcs-podcast. And of course, with the Open Critic podcast as well too. That drops every Friday morning, so please make sure to go check that out and subscribe to it, the Open Critic Weekly Recap. You can go check that out at opencritic.com. You can find the links to the podcast right there. Use your podcast platform of choice and listen to Kyle and I also talk about the news on your commute into work. If you need something to listen to in the background, it's a lot of good information coming from us. With that, thanks Kyle. Thanks everybody. We will catch you all next week.
Bye-bye.